Welcome to Lab 12, Implementing DevOps using Azure Pipeline. Now, this is like approximately a 1.5 hour of session. Now, I'm not sure this video can become 1 hour or 1.5 hour, but that's approximation which I'm looking forward. And in this lab, I plan to have all these chapters. So you can see we have 23 chapters around here. And all these 23 chapters, will help us to understand that how we can implement a complete DevOps automation using the Azure pipeline. So let's not waste too much time and let us get started with what exactly is DevOps. So let's first start with the word itself. This DevOps is a 6-letter word, and this 6-letter word is formed from two acronyms, Dev and Ops. So the Dev stands for software developer and Ops stands for operations and admin. So in order to understand, why do we need DevOps, let us understand what happens in a typical software development process, or I'll say what happens, that when you say that you want to deliver an enterprise level software to an end customer, what kind of process takes place, or who are the important parties who participate in the delivery of the software. So at the first is you have an end customer who is demanding, who pays for everything, right? So he demands that changes should be delivered faster. He demands the launches should happen faster. He demands that whenever the delivery happens, the software should be stable and so on, right? It should not have bugs and so on, right? At the other end, we have our developers, who actually try to deliver the software. So basically they plan, they code, they build, they test, they do a release and so on, right? Normally in an enterprise level software, where you have a lot of installations and, you have a lot of configuration and the software is complex, you always also have an operations team, who takes care of it. So when the developer actually gives out the final release to the operation team, the operation team also has a certain process, so they also go ahead, they also take the release, they deploy it, they configure it, as per the environment, they operate it, they monitor, they help the end customer, to understand, what the changes are, right? And normally what happens is, there is a kind of a friction, or I'll say a blame game, which happens between the developers and the operations department. So the operation says, that we have to do a lot of configurations, to take it live. The build is very complex, so it takes time to take it to the end user. There are issues in deployment, which leads to an unstable system. So there are some complaints, of the operations team when it comes to delivering this software to the end user. And at the other end, developers say that, okay, it was working at my end, and ops, does not give me any feedback. So when such events happen, they don't even give us any kind of feedback, and they tell us after a month and so on, right? So this DevOps, you can think about, it is trying to improve the relationship between the developers and operations. We can also say that DevOps is a kind of a philosophy. It is kind of a concept. It's kind of a software development phrase. Please understand, it is not a process really. There is no process in DevOps. So it's kind of a kind of a concept, or I'll say rather, must be the word which I like is, it is a working culture, to make the relationship between the developers and the operations department more agile. And once the relationship between the developers and the operation department becomes agile and better, right, you can deliver faster, you can deliver a stable product and so on, right? So DevOps is nothing but it is trying to improve the working culture between the dev and the operation departments to make the relationship better, so that we can have a better delivery, a stable delivery, and a faster delivery. So in order to implement DevOps, the first thing is the mindset, the working culture. We need to all agree that we are all humans. So humans work in the dev department and the ops department, and humans always have problem, when it comes to collaborations. So there are egos, there is so-called as the office politics and blame game and so on, right? So definitely, humans are working. So first thing is, we need to accept as humans that the dev and the ops department have issues, and we need to resolve it. We need to work as one team so that we deliver the application in a better way to the end customer. So first is the mindset. First is the working culture. That's important, right? Once we all decide, yes, we want to work in a collaborative manner, now comes the process part, right? Or now comes, how we can work in a better way. So the second step now is automation. So a lot of people feel, that DevOps means automation. So automation is a byproduct. The first thing is you need to agree that you want to follow DevOps. That's the first thing. So let me also talk about some of the myths of DevOps. A lot of people feel DevOps is a position. I have seen that in job portals. I have seen that some people put that I need a DevOps. Like, I don't know from where you get a person called as DevOps, right? So there is no position as DevOps. There is no department as DevOps. DevOps is not a team. It is not saying that, okay, take the dev team and ops team and put them into one room and they will start working collaborative, right? No. DevOps is not about tool sets. DevOps is not about automation. DevOps is not dev plus ops, right? So DevOps is a working culture. We agreed on, right? But now the next thing is, so we need to work collaboratively. We need to work continuously. I think this word continuous is important. So you can see that, that slide which I had here, that slide now I have actually made the process in more of what you call a continuous kind of a cycle. So you can see the first thing at the left hand side, we have all those tasks which the dev team will do. At the right hand side, we have all those tasks which the ops team will do. So the dev will do the plan, the code, the build and the test, right? And then he will release it to the operations. The operation will take up this release, deploy it, operate it, and instantly give the feedback saying that, okay, there is an issue in the on the floor, right? And he will give instantly feedback to the team. The team takes this as a part of the plan and again starts doing its work, right? Now, in this whole process, what we really want is, if you want to deliver faster, then we need automation tools. Now, I'm using the word automation out here, but as I've said, that the automation is a byproduct. First is that the working culture, right? So we need, like, yes, if I check in the code, I want that the build should happen automatically, right? So I don't want that somebody should go and say, okay, now let's go ahead and fire the build. Let us go and do the configuration. So the build should happen automatically. And then the test cases, I would love to see that a lot of test cases, they 80 or 85%, is done automated. So you have wrote the unit test case and the unit test case starts firing on the new build. Once that is done, then you give the final release. Again, this release, the release and the deploy, if possible, it should be again automated, right? So it just goes and puts the deployment into a QA server or into a UAT server. And from the UAT, the operations and the end user starts testing it, right? And if there are issues, you again give back, right? So remember that, at least I feel that DevOps does not say that we want 100% automation. You cannot replace humans. You can't say that I will check in the code and then the build will start automatically, the deploy will happen, the test will happen. There is no interference of anyone. No, we are, nothing can replace humans. Whatever you build today, at the end of the day, humans are important, right? The only thing what we are saying in DevOps is that try to automate whatever you can so that you can deliver faster. So yeah, the build is automated 100%, let us say. Must be the test cases 80% are automated and 20%, some manual testing will be done. The release and the deploy is automated for UAT must be. But again, like, when you say I want to go final go live, the ops will say, no, I will go final go live, but we have a lot of manual configurations, which is very difficult to automate, right? And so on. So basically DevOps is all about working culture and the maximum automation what we can do. Now to implement DevOps, we have hundreds of tools out there. Every tool is very specific sometimes to a single phase, or probably it can also automate multiple phases. For example, when you say you want to do planning, you have Slack, you have Trello, you have Office. You can also use simple Google Drive if you wish. For build, you have Kubernetes. In the same way, for every phase, for example, Cucumber is one of the famous ones. Jenkins, we have the Amazon cloud, we have the Google cloud as well, we have the Azure cloud as well, right? So a lot of people are offering different tool sets out there. So think about it. You want to go and do DevOps, and you then have to get into the integration, the technical integration of all of these tools, which can become very complex and which can become very tiresome. And that's where we have Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps says that you don't have to do anything. just come to my Azure cloud and create an account, start your code check-in, and I have created a pipeline. So basically what Azure has for Azure DevOps has is it has a pipeline, where you can go and you can build this complete flow with just a click of a button, right? So my goal in this video would be that I will first go ahead and do a bit of a planning. For that planning, I will go and I will do the code check-in. For that code check-in, I will create an automatic build, and then I will go and I will deploy this build automatically into a virtual machine, right, live. And then we will also see that how we can give feedback back to the plan, right? So this full cycle I will demonstrate now by using Azure DevOps. So let us get started. So there you can see I am on the portal of Azure. So let's go to search and type Azure DevOps, right? So I'm going to go and click on Azure DevOps. Once I click on Azure DevOps, it says that you have to go and you have to create an organization. So you can see here it says my Azure DevOps organization. So I'm going to go and click on this, because at the end of the day, when you say you want to go and do DevOps, it's for an organization, right? So I'm going to go and create an organization here called as must be Questpond, right? So I'll say yes, continue. I'll give this name as Questpond company, questpond.com, right? Where would you like to host your projects? So I'll say, okay, let me select the same. South India is already taken, is it? I never knew that. So Questpond company, that is taken, no. And I'll select South India. So looks to me that it has automatically suggested that. So I'm going to go and say continue. So this will actually go and create an Azure DevOps organization for your organization. And in this, you can go and you can check in your code, you can check out your code, you can do the build, the CI, CD, all that things you can actually go and do it out here, right? So there it is. You can see it says now, okay, so it has created the company, it has created the organization. Now it says that, okay, inside an organization, you can have a lot of projects. So go ahead and create a project. So it gives you two options. You can either create a project public, or you can either go and create it private. So private means it will be only accessible inside your company, with the people whom you give access, only those can access it, right? So this public is specifically if you want to go and create an open source project and so on. So I'll go and I'll say, okay, this is some project. So I'm going to go and create a some project. I will keep it as private and I'll say create project. So there you can see it has created the project, and it is giving me some kind of a small overview and a kind of a dashboard, or I can say overview out here. And inside this some project, now I can go and I can create a repository and so on. So the first part is the planning part. So you can see that on, when you move your mouse on the boards, there is something called as a work item. So let me go ahead and create a small plan here. So I'm going to go and create a new work item, and must be this is a task. You can see there is something called as an epic as well. So I'll click on epic. At the end of the day, it's either epic, or it's either task, or it's either bug. Finally, it's a work item, right? So work item has different types. So this is just one of those types. So I'll say here, okay, first build, first check-in, right? Task. So this is a task, where I'm saying to the developer, please go ahead and check in the first baseline code, right? And what I will do is I will allocate this task, to, so let us also go and put some comments. Please upload the source code, right? With the basic structure, right? So this is the first task I'm creating, where I'm saying that please, so to do, and you can see people can also discuss down below and so on. Fine. I want to actually assign it to, well, no entities found, is it right? Let me go and save. We do have one user who is allocated to it, so I'm not sure why there is no users. So actually I wanted to go and allocate this task to someone, but I don't know why I'm not seeing here any users, right? At this moment, at least I should see one user, right? Fine. But I have a task out here saying first check in the task. So basically I want that somebody should go ahead and check in the task. And to check in the code, you need to have repos. So you can see there is something called as repositories out here. So if you click on the repository, it says that, you have a GitHub repository at this moment. Remember that when I created the project, it asked me that, do you want to use the GitHub repository or the old one, the TFS repository, right? So I said I wanted the Git repository. So that's why it has given me this, right? And I will take this and I will actually go to my Visual Studio, and let us go ahead and open this project, right? Open this, clone this project. So basically, if you see here, you can also go and click on this clone with Visual Studio. It will open up the Visual Studio, but I would suggest that you can start from here. So I'll say file, open, file, clone, clone, or check out the code. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to go and clone. So I will say that I want to clone this repository. So clone means you want to get whatever is there online and just get in sync with it, right? And I don't want to create a local repository. I want to go and connect directly to the Azure DevOps. If I create a local repository, that will also work, then I have to give a connection to the online, but I would like to go directly and say, okay, I want to go and connect to Azure repository, Azure DevOps repository. You can see at this moment I am signed in. In case you are not signed in, you need to go and add an account from here. So I am signed in here, and it should show me all the repositories, where I'm connected to. So you can see this Questpond company, this some project. So I'm going to go and connect to it. And what I will do is I'll say, okay, browse. Let us go ahead and create a proper directory. This is very important. Don't just create the source code anywhere else. Create it in a proper directory. So I'm going to go and create a folder here called as Questpond repositories, right? And everything what I will do in this D drive Questpond repositories. So I'm going to go back again, and I will say that let's do all check-in checkouts over here, and I'll say clone it. So there it is. You can see now I have cloned, and it is cloning the repository, and it will ask you for signing up. So I'm going to go say yes, sign up. So I already had put the credentials in my history. So you can see that it is actually signing up, and there you can see I'm connected to my Team Explorer, to my Questpond company, some project, and also now I can go and I can start creating the project right out here. So let's go ahead and create a simple MVC project, and let us go ahead and check in against the against the work item which I have created. Remember, I had created one work item over here, work item ID 1. So I'm going to go and create a project, and what this project should be a part of this local folder D Questpond repos, because I have cloned the online repository out over there, right? So I'll say file new project, and let me select console ASP.NET Core web application, right? I'll say next, and we need to have that as the repository. So let me go back here. Okay, and we will create it inside this folder Questpond repos, because inside this all the Git and the VS configurations are now there. So I'll say file new project and ASP.NET Core application, and the location where you should create is this one. So we'll say web app 123, right? And I will say create. It will ask me that you want to create an MVC web application. Yes, whatever it is, we'll go ahead and create it. So now we have a web application created inside that repository folder, and if everything is good, you should be able to see those log signs out here, which indicates that things are in control, right? Now I'm going to go out here, and let us try to go ahead and check in the code, right? So let's first click on this changes out here. Before that, we don't want to check in. We really don't want to check in this .vs folder. It has a lot of files, which are related to the Visual Studio configuration, right? So we don't want to check in everything, right? We just want to check in the solution and the relevant source code. So let me just go back to settings out here, and let me just ensure that I'll go to repository settings, and I'll say, let's create a git ignore file, which will actually ignore any kind of code, which is irrelevant. So in other words, it will now not check in. So if you go to the folders in File Explorer, it will not check in the .vs files, so it will not check in .vs files, the .git files, and so on, right? Good. So we are all set. You can see over here, this is the home where you see everything of the TFS, This is the solution explorer where you see the source code. So this is actually your source code. This is actually related to the online Azure, where you want to connect, you want to check in and so on. So if I click on the work items at this moment, we are unable to, because it is configured for user Shiv, but you are trying to connect via anonymous. Okay. So you can see that I'm not able to view the work items. Must be, I should actually try to connect, right? So this is the Questpond company, and let me try to connect out here. There I'm connected. Not sure why it is not showing me. Let me try to see assigned to me. Yeah. Oh, that was not assigned to me, right? So can't I go and show? Okay. So looks like, but I'm not getting those errors now, so I feel that I should be able to, I can see that now I'm not getting that error where it was saying you are not connected, right? So we'll see one work item is created, that work item at this moment is not assigned to me. So probably it is not showing out to me out here, right? Following, or must be, okay, nowhere I mentioned also. Oh, that's what it is, so this over here, I've set my activity, and that is something, okay, fine. We'll check that later on. So let's go back and let's try to do a check-in. So I'm going to go and check in this code. So let's again go back to the home and we'll say, what are the changes? So these are the changes. Yes, the whole application I want to go and add online. Also, can I just quickly check before I go online, how about going and checking just the settings and the repository settings? So I just want to check, if in the remote I'm connected to Questpond company Azure, right? That's what it was. So can I go and just check in my repository? It was Questpond company Azure some project. Questpond company Azure some project. Very good. Just because sometimes what happens is your source code will get check in into some other branch, and that can be a problem, right? So changes, yes. Do you want to go and check in? Yes, I want to go and check in this. So let's enter some comments. If you don't enter a comment, this is all disabled out here. So I'll say this is the fresh structure, right? So initial code, right? Now you can say commit and staged. It will just go and not actually commit into the main branch. Or you can say commit stage and push, so it will actually go and push on the server. And if you say commit staged and sync, it will not only push to the server, but if there are any changes on the main Azure repos, he will also get latest that, right? So must be I can just do a commit staged and a push for now, or I can say even sync. Let me do a sync, right? And there it is unable to sync because the current branch does not track the remote branch. That's really bad. The current branch does not track the remote branch. That is really, really bad. What is happening out here? Let me do a sync out here. Let me try to check in this code. Let's see initial code. So that's what I want to check in, right? And sync. So push. Let's try to push. I'm trying to push the branch. Yeah, successfully done, right? So I was not sure why the sync was not working. So you can see here, there are two sections out here, incoming commits and outgoing commits. So when I said commit, it committed to my local, and then I said, okay, sync it online. So looks to me that it has gone online. Let us go ahead and check. So let me go and do a refresh, and I feel that my repositories are online. You can see that it has committed the git ignore, but for some reason he has still not committed my changes. So I'm going to go and say that, okay, these changes are still not committed. I don't know why. So please commit the initial code, right? And I'll say commit all. If I just say, it will just commit to my local, right, which I don't want. You can see if I say commit all, it just commit locally. But when I say sync, it will actually sync it to the server, right? So I'm going to go and say push all these changes to the server. So pushing the current branch. So writing those 75 objects. Looks like the changes are checked in. So there it is, web application, web 123 is there, right? Okay, so good, our code is checked in, right? And so if I go and make some changes out here, for example, if I say added some more code, right? You can see as soon as I change something out here, this becomes red. I can again go and say commit, and I can either commit locally or so these are new changes, right? And I would say that I want to go and commit against that work item. Remember, we had created one work item 1. So I'll just say I want to commit against, that one, saying that this is the fresh commit, right? So you can see now we have planned it. We have the code here, and the code is getting checked in against the plan, right? So remember our big picture of DevOps, we have a plan, we have a code for that plan. And so I can go and I can check in that code for that plan, which I've created. So you can see DevOps is all coming into action now. Again, I will say commit and also sync it. So I don't want to just commit local. So everything is done. And if I go and see online, I should see startup.cs, just now it has been modified. And if I go and see, I can see the changes are happening. Good. So we created a plan. For that plan, we are now able to go and commit the changes as well. Now, the next step is we want to go and create a build. So as soon as I go and change something in the code and I check in right, it should automatically go and create a build. So now we have created a plan. Against this plan, we have checked in the code, the repositories, right? Now it is time to go ahead and create the pipeline. At the end of the day, when you look at DevOps is nothing but it is series of workflow. It is a pipeline, wherein first the check-in happens, then the build happens, then the go live happens and so on, right? So Azure has given a thought saying that, okay, at the end of the day, we visualize it as a pipeline. So I'll say, yes, go ahead, create a pipeline. And the first thing the pipeline says is that, okay, where is your code, right? Because everything revolves around the code. Now, at this moment, our code is in Azure Repos, right? So we have actually checked into Azure Repos, but if your code is into Bitbucket or some other source safe like GitHub, right? No issues, you can go ahead and configure even those. Now to create a pipeline, they use a language called as YAML. So yet another markup language. So I'm going to go and say that, yes, here is a markup language, and I'll say, okay, select this some project. So he says that, okay, what is your language, because depending on the language, we have some basic pipeline templates. So I'll say, yes, at this moment, my language, my project is all ASP.NET, and it is basically ASP.NET Core, isn't it? So I'll say, yes, it is ASP.NET Core. And you can see that's basically the YAML, what we have at this moment. And if you closely see the YAML language is as follows. You don't have to know too much, but let me just try to give you a brief out here. So first is, if you want to go and create a variable in YAML, you have to give a main section at the top. For example, you can see this is variables. And then he has said, okay, solution file is SLN, right? And the build platform is any CPU, right? So you can see that these are all the variables. So to declare a variable, you have to give the variable name, colon, and then the value, right? And then these variables are used down below. So for example, if you look at .NET Core, the first thing for .NET Core is you need to go and get all the the references, right? So for that, it's firing a task. You can see this word here, task. So it says task, go ahead and fire the nugget command. And for the nugget command, the input is $solution. This solution is nothing but it is this one. So it will actually go to the SLN file. It will take all the things and it will try to do and get latest, right? And then you can see there is a VS build. So again, there are variables to it. So you can see there are tasks, and for the task, there are variables, and the variables are defined at the top. So when you talk about the YAML file, it's a very simple file, where you can go ahead and you can write your code. Now, at this moment, do not try to go too much into YAML. Whatever is there at this moment, we will just try to save and run it, So I'm going to go and say save and run it. So you can see here, so what is the name of this pipeline? So I'll just say that this is my some project build pipeline, right? And it says that commit this YAML file at this moment into the same branch out here. So I'm going to go and commit this. So there it is. This is the YAML which is created at this moment, right? And if I go to my pipelines at this moment, I see this some project, okay? And you can see that by default I have said run, so it has started running it. When the pipeline is running, it actually shows this blue icon out here, and it says that this is running. Once the running is complete, this will actually show it as a green sign. So after some time, this should actually show it as green. So pipeline, right? Okay, right. Let me refresh it. Sometimes, right, so there it is still running, and after some time it will show me a green sign. So very quickly, so at this moment I've triggered it manually. I will show also how to go ahead and trigger it automatically, right? So we went ahead, we used these boards to create the work items, we use the repositories to do the commit, and now we have created a pipeline which is actually doing a build. So let's hope that this becomes green ASAP. So there it is green now. So very nice. That means our pipeline is built. If you go and see, if you want, you can go and you can also see in detail, how the build happened. So you can really go to this build and you can see that what exactly happened. For example, let me go back to the pipeline just to show you something. You can always go and say, for example, look at the runs. So these are the runs here. So in the runs, you can go and you can see how exactly is. So that's a job, right? So let's see the job. So you can see here, it also gives you a very internal snapshot out here, saying that, okay, what happened? First thing, these all variables were created, the job parameters were created, then it initialized the job, right? Afterwards, it did a checkout. So basically, it used the git commands, the local commands. It did a git, then it installed NuGet. If it was not installed, then it actually used the NuGet command and it used the chproj file. Remember, when you say NuGet, should use the chproj file to do the get latest. It even did that. Then it did vs build and it built the project, into a directory. So the directory is D. At this moment, if you see down below somewhere, there will be a directory where the build must have happened. So copying files, final directory. So somewhere here, you can see that he has created a webapp.zip into this folder called as DA1A. Okay, whatever it is, right? So you can also go and see, internally, how that job has run, where it has got stuck and so on, right? So quite, it's quite neat, as far as I saw. But now one of the important things what you want to do is this you triggered manually. You want to go ahead and trigger this automatically. So you can see at the right hand side, this small thing out here. So I can go to this sum project. You can see at the right hand side, this dot over here. I can go and I can say in the settings, I can say that, in the schedule runs. So I can say schedule runs. Where is the setting? I want to say that this, okay, so I want to say settings, triggers. I'm so sorry, guys. Again, sometimes, I forget those menus out there. I hope as a developer, you understand the frustration. So what I have to do is I have to actually go and edit this YAML. So actually I have to go and edit this YAML out here. And then I have to go and click on this sign out here and say triggers. So if I click on this triggers out here, over here, it will actually give me that setting saying that, okay, when do you want to trigger the build? Do you want to trigger the build manually, or you want to go ahead and trigger the build automatically? So override the YAML integration from here, and I will say enable continuous integration, right? So in other words, basically I want to go ahead and schedule the build, as soon as the code is checked in, right? So I will go and I will save this. So this is here, and that's what I've done. So basically now I have made this build as automatic. Okay, let me check again. This menu sometimes, no, you have not. I want to save the changes. Where is the save? Yeah, so I'll just say save. I don't want to queue it. I will just say save at this moment. Made the build automatic, right? I'll just save this. Okay, so let me look at my pipelines. I just want to make sure that if this pipeline is automatic, so I'm going to go to the settings and just check. So new runs is there, right? That is good. Okay, and schedule runs, sorry, not schedule runs, settings. Yeah, so it is enabled, so I've enabled the CI over here, right? So now let's go ahead and let's see if this works or not. So remember, guys, you will edit the YAML again, in case you are getting confused, don't get confused. You will actually edit the YAML file, right? So you will actually go ahead and edit this YAML file. you will go to the settings out here, you will go to triggers, and you will say that this will trigger in continuous integration. If you say disable continuous integration, then you have to do it manually, right? So now let me go back here. Let's go to pipelines and let's see if automatically things update or not. So I'm going to go back here. I will go to my solution explorer and let me go and add some changes. So I added some more code, right? And I will go ahead and I will check in. So I'm going to go and say check in this code, right click, commit, and new changes, right? And I will say not only commit, I'll just say commit and sync it online, right? So there it is, it has gone online. Let us go to Azure repositories first. I'll go to Azure repositories and I can see in my web app, let's see in my web app, first thing, this is just now committed. You can see just now. So that is good. Now I should see automatically the pipeline getting fired. Where is the pipeline getting fired? So you can see recently runs. Let's look at runs. So there it is. You can see it has started automatic, the build, right? And I can go and I can see the build at that time itself. I can go inside the job and see that how it is running. So you can see the nugget command is running at this moment. This is the blue sign out here. Then the VS build will run. Then the VS test will run. At this moment, we have not created unit test, but must be, I will try to show you the unit testing as well, how it works, right? So this is how the automatic build Azure pipeline helps you. You can see now the VS build is running, right? Then the VS test will run. And then after that, he will go and put that whole zip file into a folder. So there it is, right? So now you can see automatic CI has been enabled. And once this, okay, so there it is, it has finished, right? Good. But now what about going and taking this deployment and putting it right away into a server and making it online, right? So this is good. We can now create a plan by using the tool, by using the boards. We can go and check in and check out and do all the collaboration by using the repositories. Then we have this nice pipeline out here where I have went ahead and I created an input pipeline, right? So this is an input pipeline and I created a build pipeline, I will say rather. Now I need to go and create a release pipeline, wherein I want to take this build and deploy it to some kind of a virtual machine. So let's see how we can do that. But now logically thinking, if I want to go ahead and push this build to go live or to UAT server, right? I need a server, isn't it? I need a place or a URL, where my application will load, right? So I'm going to go again back to Azure and I would like to go and create a virtual machine must be, but a virtual machine would be too much, right? I know that my application at this moment is ASP.NET, it is SQL Server, so I can go and create an app service. That's what the app service is all about. I would suggest to go and watch, our basic tutorials right from the start where we explain how to create an app service. So I'm going to go and create an app service because I have a .NET application and, backend is very fixed. So if you have a Java application or a Node application and PHP and Python, this app service has like a ready-made template with everything. So I'm going to go and say create out here, create the app service. So there it is getting created. And let me pick up a very cheap virtual machine for now. So let me first thing, remember we have to create a resource group. So I'm going to go and say some resource one, res1, and let's give some name here, questpond live dot Azure websites.net. Is it a source code or a Docker? No, it's not a Docker. It's actually a source code. What is your runtime? Is it ASP.NET? Is it Java? Is it Node? Is it PHP? It is Ruby, right? Mine one is .NET Core 3.0, right? That's what it is. And where do you want to host it? I'll just host it on a central US server. What kind of machine you want? Let me go and change the size. It is, you can see it, he has taken S1 standard, but I would like to go and check if there is something more cheaper than this, frankly. So there it is. You can see it is S1, that is 4,800 INR, Indian rupees. So looks to me that this one is a better choice. I'll just go and say apply. I think it chose the same thing for me. And I'll say next. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, I want to. Do you want to have an application insight? No, for now, I don't want to really know that this application. Let me keep the application insight. Okay, for now. and I'll just say review and create it, right? So there it is getting created. The virtual machine is getting created right out here. It is validating, and also in my notification it should show me the tracks. So okay, right, so yeah, refresh. Why it is not showing anything in my notification? Okay, create. I've still not created it. It was a review, right? Okay, fine, I'll say create, and once I do a create, you can see initializing deployment. So I think this will take some time for deploying and creating the virtual machine. It will go ahead and also create a portal for me. So there you can see if everything runs good, I will get an URL and I should be able to go and host my application on it. So if you see at this moment in my app services, or I can also go through the resources. So we can go to resource group out here, res1, and you can see it's deploying. So once it is deployed, I think I should get my URL right out here. So let's wait for some time. But until then, how about going back to our Azure pipeline and creating an output build? That's also going to take time, isn't it? So let's go back here and let's create a release pipeline. Please note, previously, we created a build pipeline. So this was a build pipeline, right? And this one here is a release pipeline. So I'm going to go and click on this release pipeline out here. So I'll say new pipeline. Let's get started. Now, when you say a build, it needs two things. One is it needs the artifact. You can see at the left-hand side, this small workflow out here. It needs the artifact, that zip file, which was there, while the build happened. So it needs that artifact, and it needs, where you have to get hosted. So this is the stage one, where, I'm saying that it should be hosted on this server, which I'm creating right now out here, right? So for now, I'll just say, okay, let's first go ahead with the artifact. So first thing, select a template. What is this? This is an Azure service deployment. Remember, that was already selected. So I'm going to just go and apply it so that I get something which is ready-made out here. Also, let's go and select the artifact. So I'll say artifact. There are 5 artifacts out here, but my build is this sum project. And inside that, whatever is the latest artifact, just take it, So I'm going to go and say add out here. So you can see this sum project is added. And also you can see there is a small trigger button out here saying continuous deployment. So I'm going to go and click on this and I will enable continuous deployment. So previously we had a continuous build. Now this is a continuous deployment, right? So you need to go and enable it. Please note that in case you are working in development, please go and off this, because you will get billed for every build what is done out here, because the time you start utilizing the CPU, right, Azure will start billing you. So please ensure that you choose this all very carefully, right? But yeah, okay, I have enabled it. This is good. So continuous deployment trigger is there. Okay, now where is our server? I hope our server is now running. It's still there. It's taking time. No problem. It's deploying. We'll wait for some time. So what we need to give now here is we need to give where the server is, right? So what is my Azure subscription? My Azure subscription is that one, pay as you go, authorize it. Yes, let's go ahead and authorize it, because it's possible that you have an organization, but at the end of the day, your pay as you go account can be different. So you can say it is authorizing. So once it authorizes, the next thing is, what is this? This is actually web app on Windows. Absolutely. So this is web application, which I want to run on Windows. So that is good. Let's wait for that authorizing to happen. Also, let's ensure that this go live happens out here. One succeeded. Wow. So Quest Pond live. Where is my URL? Where is my URL? Okay. res1 home. I want my URL. So that's the application inside. I should get my URL somewhere here. Why am I not getting it? I think this is the app service. It should be right out here. Sometimes, it pulls, from somewhere. So you can see this is the questpondlive.azurewebsites.net. This is at this moment my homepage out here. And I expect, that so that, when I go ahead and I check in the code, it should automatically go and build, it should automatically go and do the release, and that release should go and deploy into this server out here, right? Now, the next thing is I also have to give the server name out here, the app service name. So you can see Questpond Live. This is the one which we have just created. So I'm going to go and save this out here, save, right? So yeah, continuous deployment, CD. I'll save this. This is great, right? So everything is configured. Deployment is configured. Our website is running. Now let's see if all the things will run or not, right? So I'm going to go back here now. Let's say we go ahead and we check in the code first thing. So let's go back and let's see the whole cycle now, it is running or not. So remove some code. So I'm going to go and remove some code out from here. And then I will say here commit. Let us see how it works. Commit. And I will say go live. So new changes, right? New changes, right? And I will say commit and sync so that both of them happen in one go. So there it is, committing and syncing. And this will actually now trigger our build, isn't it? The first thing is our pipeline will get triggered, and you can see new changes, which I just checked in, that will get triggered. And this will then trigger, once this finishes, it should actually go and trigger my release. That means this one here. So at this moment, you can see this is my release pipeline, which I've created just now. We should actually give a good name to this. It is not a good name. How about giving some good name here, saying that this is the go live pipeline, So I'll just save this, so that, right. So change name, right. And so this is our go live pipeline, right? So I expect, my go live should now fire automatically, right? So let's first wait, for that pipeline to finish. So let's look at the runs. It is still there in blue. And once this becomes green, then we will see that the release is getting kicked off, So let's wait for some time. So there it is green now. So let's go to the releases out here. Oh, there you can see the release one has been triggered automatically. So our continuous deployment is also working. Okay, welcome to the summary page and so on. I'm not interested at this moment. So there it is. It has done the continuous deployment, has started. It has picked up, I think, the RAR file from here, and it is actually waiting for the Azure pipeline. So it's basically waiting here. Right. So queued for the agent, automatic trigger has happened. Let us see what happens, right? So we are all waiting. And what should happen is, the final output is that when I do a refresh, my site should go live, isn't it? Okay. But guys, before this whole thing completes, one very important thing is, at the end of the day, everything cannot be automatic. I believe in that, that humans cannot be replaced. Issues are very different. So the point here is that, try to automate, whatever is possible. But if you feel that, some of the things cannot be automated, or it is taking too much time, must be, those kind of things you can do it manually, isn't it? Okay. So, so for 1 minute, I'm ready to wait for 1 minute. Pipelines, releases pipeline. Oh, there is an error here. You can see there is an error. I'll just go and click on this error out here. And it says that he does not find the zip file. Remember I said the zip file, the RAR file which gets loaded, he is not finding it. So that means, we need to go and fix certain things. So I Googled around, and what I found is that, one of the code snippets of YAML is missing. So I Googled with this error, what I had got out here. And if you go and search it, the first Stack Overflow link comes in. So it says that, when your build is done. So in other words, when your pipeline is created, when the build is done. So basically in this build out here, so I'm going to go and edit this pipeline. It says that it does not have a published task out here. So that is so sad. So I'm going to go and create a published task out here. I'm just going to go and copy that. So this is, remember there are lots of tasks out there, task VSTS, this is running the test, task, this is running the build. You can see at the right hand side, you can add more tasks out here, so must be, if I say publish, must be there should be a publish artifact out there. You can see, so looks to me that this publish task is the same thing. If I go and say publish this, right, and nothing. I'll just add it. You can see, oh, that's a .NET Core. But I think, this publish artifact task is up. I think the build is already done. I'm so sorry. The build is done, right? So we don't need this. I want to go and delete this. So this we don't need. So this is the publish task. So must be, you can go and guys find it out. That's about this task is out here. But the point is that if you do not have an idea, you can go ahead and you can add it from here. I just copied it from the URL out there, right? So I'm going to go and save this. So updated the Azure YAML file, right? And updated it with the publish command. So that's the issue. So now you don't have to really learn YAML, I would suggest, because I feel, you should concentrate and focus more on the delivery part. So if you have some issues around, just Google around and you can search your favorite task, do some small amount of POC. I think you should be good with it, right? Now let us see if things will work or not. So I'm going to go again back and trigger. I don't have to trigger from here now. I will just go ahead and trigger from the releases. So how about going out here and saying, let me trigger this manually. So can I trigger this manually? I think I can. So let me go to the release out here and let me try to deploy. Okay, go pipeline. Where is the menu of saying now execute this, right? So, okay, so create a release, yes. And this is a manual one. So I'm going to go and say select this. Okay, I have to go and create a new release, right? So this is the pipeline I have to. So, okay, manual release. Okay. And I'm going to go and say, okay, create it, right? So there it is. It is now staging out there. Oh, but this won't really work, right? Again, why? Because that build pipeline itself is a problem, isn't it? I'm so horrible here. So you have to first go ahead and do that, right? So I'm going to go and abandon this. I'm so sorry for this. So basically I need to go ahead and trigger the build pipeline because the problem is in the build. The build did not copy the zip file, right? So let us go ahead and again try to manually run this. So I'm going to go and say run this pipeline and yes, run it, just run it, right? So there it is, manually run by Shiv at this moment. This is not automatic. So manually run by Shiv out here, right? Just now. And so if I see in my pipelines, I should see that one manual running taking place. That's the blue sign out there. And once this will go and publish that RAR file into that D11 and /1 folder, whatever it is, right? I think it should fix up the release, right? So let's wait for some time and let's see if we get out here. 6. This is abandoned. I think he has already started this release 3 also. So that's good to see. Oh, there it is. It is deploying now. So looks like it has got the build. So this left hand side, to get the build has been done. And it is now trying to deploy this code into the online virtual machine, which I've hosted. So I feel after some time I should see my MVC core application running. There it is. So there you can see my MVC core application is running. Everything is automatic. So nice to see that, right? Okay. Looks to me that I have to refresh. I think it is succeeded. The refresh is slow, right? So great. We can just watch once again the whole CI pipeline, the whole CD pipeline, all that DevOps and so on. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go here and say, so rather than doing it out here, how about going to the home page? So I'm going to go to the home page out here and I would like to change something in the home page so that I can see that in the live, right? So I'll say welcome to Azure DevOps, right? So I'll go and I will check in this HTML file, the CS HTML file, to be very specific. So I'm going to go and say commit. So this is changed to index page, right? And I will just say commit and all sync. So you can see that this is all going online and publishing, syncing and everything. That's good. Let's go back to our pipeline. So automatically the pipeline will fire. So let's go to runs out here. So you can see that it is actually running this, right? So that is blue out there, which is running. Once this gets done, it will actually go and trigger my release as well. So this one was done sometimes back, right? And I expect, once this this runs happen out here. So there it is green. So that means now it will actually go to the release, right? So my release should automatically go to release. So release 5, there it is, release 5 has started. It is in queue. So basically you can see it has started this. And once the whole thing goes live onto the Azure VM, I should see here, welcome to DevOps, right? So there it is, deploying to the Azure App Services, 3 of 3 task finishing, 5, 6, 7. Yep. And after some time, I should see here, welcome to DevOps. Yep. Under construction, that is also very good. You can see that as soon as it is putting live, Azure is also taking care of that 99.99% SLA thing, right? Saying, okay, site under construction, no problem. But after once the app service has been deployed, refresh. Right, that's like, okay, I hope after some time I should see the go live. Right, so that's it, is Azure, welcome to Azure DevOps. So you can see the changes have gone live. This is succeeded, so nice, right? So this was the complete Azure DevOps, where we did a plan, then we did a code check-in, then we did a continuous build, then we did a continuous release, and that release we actually published it onto the server. Now, one of the important part of DevOps is continuous testing as well. So it is very good to see that we have continuous build, we have continuous deployment, but at the same time, we would like to do continuous testing as well. So in case if you have unit test, Azure DevOps also can plug in that in the pipeline, right? So I'm going to go and create a simple unit test out here. So what I will do is, we already have this index action. I hope that you have done a bit of MVC. If you have not done MVC, I would suggest to go and watch my MVC 5 and my MVC core videos, where I have covered MVC in detail. But here, what I want to do is, in this index, let us go ahead and create a simple view data. And I want to go and write a simple unit test, which will go and which will check this. So you can see that I'm setting this view data, which is VD, with a value, let's say some value, right? And I would like to go and create a unit test, which will actually check, if this view data is having the value as some value, right? So that's a unit test I'm going to write. So now to do a unit test with a .NET Core at this moment, or MVC Core, they have given a project called as the X unit. So I'm going to go and add the X unit project over here. So X unit. So you can see that this is the X unit test project for .NET Core. So when you talk about .NET Core, this is the project, what it is, people create. So X unit project for testing, right? And let's say create. So there it is. You can see we have 2 projects now. One is web app 123, which is our actual website. And then we have this X unit, which is the unit test. So first thing is, if this unit test wants to go and test web app 123, we need to add a reference of it. So I'm going to go and quickly add a reference of web app 123. And in this test one method, we will write our test case, right? So here we are going to go and write our test case. And then this test case, I will run it on Azure DevOps. So now the first thing is we need to go ahead and get the controllers in. So I'm going to go and import the namespace of the controller. And we will say here where home is equal to new home controller, right? And you can see this home controller actually needs, an object to be injected. So if you look at the home controller out here, you will see that this home controller constructor needs the iLogger. Now, so that means that I need to go and create an instance of this home controller with the iLogger type and inject it, right? So let us go ahead and use mock testing. So let us go ahead and use MOQ, the mock, and create this mock objects, right? So I'm going to go and add some mock objects out here. So people who are new to unit testing, I would suggest to go and watch our videos on unit testing and mock testing, where we have explained how to use it. But for now, I'm going to go and use this MOQ out here and I will install it. So you can see that I've selected MOQ by Daniel and I'm going to go and install it. So once MOQ gets installed, then what I can do is I accept. Yes, I accept. I can go and I can do something like this. I can go ahead here and do something like this. So I can go ahead and create a mock object. You can see this mock object is actually belonging to the the using MOQ, which I just installed via the via the Nugget, right? And this iLogger is nothing but it is the Microsoft extension .logging, right? So I'm going to go and create an object of it. And so what this mock will do is it will create a fake object of iLogger and home controller, and it will inject it into the constructor, right? So with this, we can go and we can now start invoking the methods of the controller, right? Okay. So now let us go ahead and say, so we are going to go and invoke controller. So where result is equal to controller dot. So we are going to go and invoke the index method, remember, and this we will typecast it as view result, as view result, right? View result. So view result, yes, as view result class. Why as view result? Because then we can go ahead and check the view data inside it. So if we do not typecast it, we won't be able to actually go and do the testing. So you can see here I am typecasting it to view result. So this index is actually an action result. So you can see if you look at this index at this moment, it is an action result. And to access this view data and all those things, we need to actually go and typecast it to a view result. So I have typecast it to a view result. Now I can go and I can check the view data and do my assertions. So now we can say assert dot r equal, or I'll say equal, that r equal was the old one. And so what are we expecting here? We are expecting the value as some value, right? So I'm going to go and say, what are we expecting? You can see expected is some value, right? Some value is all small, and whatever we get from the results, view data, VD, remember the key is VD out here, right? So with this, let us go ahead and run this test case. So I'm going to go and run test, and it should actually go and show me a green sign out here because everything is passing, right? So there it is, my test case is running. That one you can see the red sign out there. This is an old test case which I was running. So this is the new one. So it is still running, and I hope that I should see proper results. So you can see there my results are, everything is passing. If I go and if I say I'm expecting some other value, then the test case will fail, right? So I can just go and test this. So I'll just run this test case, and I expect that the test case should fail. Why? Because it's giving me value as some value, and I'm expecting some other value, right? So there my test case is running, and you can see some value and you are expecting some other value. I missed the M part of it, right? So assume that this test case is a failed test case. Let's make it a failed test case, and we will go and we will plug in this test case now into the Azure DevOps, and let us see that if Azure can fire this as a part of its pipeline, right? So I'm going to go back again, and let's go and check in our unit test case, right, into online. So I'm going to go here and say changes, and let's commit. So I'll go and I'll commit this. What I will do now is, guys, I will just go ahead and mute my audio, and I will do the commit, right? And once I come very near to the test case writing, I will again regain my voice, right? So that you can listen to some good music, right? Rather than listening to my voice. So let me go in a mute, let me commit everything. Let me go to Azure DevOps, let me see if everything is checked in, right? So I'll go in a mute for now. So that's nice. Our unit test case has been checked in. So let us go to our pipeline out here, and the pipeline actually started firing, because the unit test case has checked in. And if we look at the pipeline, we already have an VSTS test out here. So you can see that we have a VSTS test out here by default, and let's see that if this VSTS test will fire or not, right? So you can see my VS build is happening, and I hope that my VSTS test will start soon. So let us wait for some time. So that is a build which is happening. That is VSTS test. It is now getting started, and let us see what happens. And it finished, and let's look at the test. Nothing happened here. You can see here, if we see down below, the first bad thing is you can see that the VSTS test is literally firing VSTS test console.exe. It is actually going firing left and right for all the DLLs, which I really don't want. It is actually firing for all these DLLs. The only DLL which it should really fire for is this X unit test project for testing, right? The other things it should actually not fire for, right? But the first thing is it is going and trying to fire VSTS test for all these other DLLs, which makes no sense. That is one point, and then when I come down below, you can also see that it says that test run will use DLLs built for .NET Framework 4.0. No, I'm using .NET Core 3.0. So there is some mistake out here. So you can see here, it does not match the framework, and it is not executing any one of these DLLs as a part of the pipeline. So it's saying that is built for .NET Standard version 1.4. I can't do anything and all that, right? And it even like, this one here, this is built for .NET 3.0, and he says that he can only test for 4.0, right? So that means that we need to now edit our pipeline and somehow tell the VSTS test to execute our .NET Core by using the .NET Core 3.0 framework and not the .NET Framework version 4.0, right? So let us go out here and let us go and edit our pipeline. So I'm going to go and edit my pipeline, and let us see what we can do out here. That means there is something really wrong with this task out here, right? So I'm going to go and delete this task, and let us go ahead and search a task, and let us say we want to add unit testing. So I'm going to go and just use this designer out here and try to see that how we can make it more so that we don't have to type a lot of things in YAML, right? So first thing you can see in this Visual Studio Test out here, I'm saying yes, I want to test my assemblies. So I have my DLL, so I'm going to go and test my assemblies. So where are your DLLs? So, or what are your DLLs, right? So actually I have created this in my notepad. So I'll say that my DLLs, if you see at this moment, our DLLs, it is X unit test project for testing, isn't it, right? So I want to only fire that DLL. So I'll say here, you can see this is a very interesting thing. I'm saying that go to the bin folder, go to my build configuration. This build configuration actually comes from the top out here, right? The release one. And I'm saying go and just test for X unit test. So wherever you find X unit test star, only test for that DLL, and the other DLLs just leave it, right? This is all good. And okay, let's try to just add it, right? Oh, I've added in the wrong place. You should keep your mouse out here and add it. So I'm going to go and again do it. This is good. You will learn more. So I'll just add like this, X unit test project, X unit test star DLL. So whatever starts with X unit test, just go ahead and run that testing, right? And it is assemblies, test assemblies, right? So this is out here. Also, there are a couple of other things which you can do out here. For example, let me go back to my notepad. You don't want to fire some of the DLL. So what you can really do is you can go and you can say not also. So you can go and say out here, for example, please note this, you have to create a, either you can go and give out a single quotes, but then you have to put the /n, or what you can do is you can give a pipe out here, and then you can separate the filters, by the use of enter. So for example, you can see I'm saying here, this is one path, right, which I've configured, and this is the other path or other criteria which I've configured, right? The first criteria says out here that the assemblies, which have X unit test in between, please only go and use them. And the second one says that do not, this is the not sign, do not take any kind of DLLs, from the obj folder, right? So this is a not sign, and when I don't put a not out here, that means this is inclusion, right? So this is not, this is inclusion, right? So I've given my test assembly, the DLLs, what they are. Also, remember I said, it's actually invoking the .NET 4.0 framework. So you can see there is one more option here called as other console options, which I've loaded, where I'm saying that please invoke the .NET Core 3.0. Please understand that when I actually try to run this test case, I have to really Google around. I'm putting all those links on the video there itself, where you can go and look into it, that why, because of the bugs and because of the documentation, this has become complex. I hope that there will be some wizard in the coming time, which can make this easy. But for now, we don't have options. So I'm saying in the other console option, please provide the framework is version 3.0 and the platform is x64. So again, this is important thing. And also, that's what it is. I think this should actually go and run our test case, and the search folder, yes, it should search in the default working directory. Remember, these dollar signs are nothing but, they are all coming from the top. This is the $build build configuration. So all these are variables, which are coming from the YAML file of the top, right? Okay. So looks good, right? I'm going to go and save it. And this time I hope that he will actually go and run my X unit test. Again, let me test X unit test. Yes. So let's go ahead and save, and let's save this. And let's go to the pipeline. And again, I'll go in a mute now, and let's watch, this test case running here, and let's see that if everything works, right? So I'm going to go in a mute. So wonderful. You can see that this VS test has failed here, and it says that in the assert.r equal, I was expecting some other value and I'm seeing some value, right? So you can see that it tells me that this job has failed, and where exactly it has failed, right? Also, I can go to my test, I can go to my runs of my test case out here, and I can, you can see out here, it says me that this is one failed out here. I can also go ahead and see I can download this. You can see that I can download this whole results. So you can see it has downloaded this results, the TRX file, and I can open this TRX file, and I can exactly know, if I say assert.r equal, where it failed and what line it failed, right? Okay, I know that the code is not there. Must be, if we have the code, it says line 20. So line 20 is this, right? 1920, right? So you can see now again our test case is also running. Also, some important points here. If you go to the pipeline, so if you click on the pipelines, you can see that you have done a lot of runs out here, right? So you can see that we have done a lot of runs. And if you want to go and see that, how many of the builds were successful, analytics, you can go and click on this analytics out here, and you can see here it says that 34% times you failed and 61% times you were successful. So there were total 49 runs. From that 34% you have failed. It also gives you what you call very important results out here, like 89% of the pipelines are failed due to this task, 2 unique failed tests, and so on. So you can see that. You can also go and see the full report out here. You can go and you can actually see a nice visualization out here as well, right? And this same you will also see in the overview. So on the overview, when you go to your dashboard, you can see that how many times the build has been successful and how many times the deployment has been successful, right? And also one more important point, if you go to the pipelines and if you see this builds out here, and if you want to go and see the specific build, you want to actually physically get the build files, you can go and click on one of these builds. For example, you can see that this was a successful build. So I can go out here, I can go to the job. So when I click on the job, this job has been successful. Everything is green out here. You can see that it says one artifact produced. So if you click on this one artifact, it will actually go and say that, okay, this artifact has this zip file. So if you go and if you download this zip file, you can see that I have downloaded the zip file. This zip file is actually the fully compiled project which you can take to production. So if you go to the content out here, so must be I can. So if you go and if you see this, so this zip file, you know, what you see out here is nothing but your final build which is there, right? That's the web app 123. If you go inside this, you would see your .NET Core 3.0 and you should see all your DLLs, right? So this is what is the actual final build. So if you want to go and see your build, you can go to pipelines, you can go to the individual jobs what are here, and to the jobs you can go and see the artifact. I would suggest that please go and see each one of these messages very properly. You can see that these messages what you see out here, you know, has lots of information on how your actual build took place, right? So for example, if you look at the VSTS test, it actually tells you which of the test has been fired, which of the test has been successful, and so on, right? So I would suggest that please, whenever you are looking into into the jobs, ensure that you go through the sentences properly, understand them. For example, you can see here it says the project is taken from this SLN file. It is then creating a directory of bin release. It is using the release mode and any CPU. So in case if you want to go and give some other environment, then you need to go and configure accordingly, right? So it gives a lot of information on how your build takes place. So if you have any issues during the build, this is the one big piece of information. This is the one place, you know, where you would get your information properly. So let's quickly revise, you know, what we have learned. So the first thing is what we did is we went to the boards and we created a task, right? Because remember, when you talk about DevOps, so that means that the first thing is we created a work item. After that, you know, we went and we checked in a code against that work item. Then we created a build pipeline inside which we built our project, as well as we ran our unit test case. And then we created a release pipeline which actually took this whole thing to the app service virtual machine, right? So it actually went ahead and deployed this whole build into the app service virtual machine. So this was, you know, full Azure DevOps with CI/CD. Remember, CI/CD again goes with DevOps, you know. So DevOps is a thought process, or DevOps is a working culture. That's the right word to use. And CI/CD says, you know, that continuous integration, continuous deployment, and continuous build are the important pillars, you know, to implement CI/CD, implement DevOps, right? So continuous integration we did by the repositories. So in repositories, what you do is you continuously integrate the code, and then continuous build and continuous deployment we did by using the pipelines. That means the build pipeline and the release pipeline. So this was a full demo of Azure DevOps with the full CI/CD. Now a very important request for everyone. I am a trainer, I am a teacher, and one of the things, you know, as a teacher, I really want to know is that how many of my students are watching which part of the class, right? So I would suggest that if you like this Azure series, please go to facebook.com/questpond and put a feedback saying that I am watching this Azure series, because at the end of the day, I would like to know that how many people are watching, you know, the Azure series or any series, you know, what I create. Because what happens is, you know, as a trainer, you record all these one hour of session and 1.5 hour of session, and then later you come to know that nobody is seeing it, nobody is watching it, right? So you know, I want to just get an idea that, okay, there are some students, you know, who have reached till the end of the 1 hour and they are really following these lectures. So with that, what happens is I will put more lectures on Azure, right? I will get, you know, because if you like it, I will record more, isn't it? So please go ahead and put a feedback on facebook.com/questpond so that I can know that how many people are following the Azure series and where they are exactly. Thank you very much. And after this session, I am flashing up some questions. Please go ahead, look through the questions, and please try to answer them yourself. With that, you can have a quick revision, and with that, you can also check, that how much you learned from this class. Thank you.